All right. Hey, so in the last video, we did like an overview of the data types that are in JavaScript. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of tinker with them, get our hands like dirty and see how to work with these. Because again, I don't want to just show you what these things are and then expect that you just know it and can do it. But actually kind of start you practicing with them and seeing how they work. Okay, so let's start off here inside of Visual Studio Code. I'm going to come over here, and what I typed up in app.js, I'm just going to delete all that. All right, not going to even worry about that. We're going to start from scratch. Okay, so let's start off with the data types, and I'm going to make a comment right here. I'm going to make a multi-line comment. So, to make a comment in so in Visual Studio Code, you want to make a comment. The command for Mac daddies and Mac mamas, Mac parents, it's command and slash. Okay, and that make a single line comment. To do it, is it command shift? No, that's not it. I don't know what it is to do multi-line, but just command and slash, that'll make a single line comment. If you are a PC user, it's control and slash, and that's a forward slash, like the question mark. But you can see in JavaScript, a single line comment is just 2 forward slashes. Multi-line comment is slash star, and it's closed with a star slash, like so. Okay. So let's look at the 5 primitive data types. Again, we have number, we have string, we have Boolean, we have undefined, and we have null. Okay, those are our 5 primitive data types. All right, so let's look at them. Let me give myself a little more room to play with. So first one is number. Okay, and again, we said that number is any value that can be calculated. All right, so I can say here console.log 4 plus 2, like so. Okay, and my expected output is going to be 6. Okay, now I've got this up right here, and I'm gonna look at this in the browser. If you haven't already, you will want to add the live server extension. This one right here by was this Ritwick Day. It's safe and everything is cool. You want to start up. You want to add this extension to Visual Studio Code, okay? Because I'm going to be using it. And when you've added, you will look down at the bottom right here, and you have this little icon, little button right here, go live, and we click here to run a live server. So in Visual Studio Code, it will run a live server based on what you're writing. So that way I won't have to go into my Finder, look for the folder, then look for the file, then click on it, open it. I can open it up right here inside of Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to have index.html highlighted, and I'm going to click go live. And what you'll see right here is my server's up. Cool. I can minimize this one. There it is right there. And let me move that up just a hair. Okay, so there we go. And again, I said I want the console 4 plus 2. So I inspect here in the console. Well, inspect in here in the console. Let me refresh, because sometimes you'll get some stuff in there. You can read through it. Sometimes it's something important. Other times it's not. In that case, it wasn't. But you can see here that there is the number 6 right there showed up from my code that I wrote, console.log 4 plus 2. Okay. And we look here and we can see that it returns the number 6. Okay. And also over here to the right, you see app.js colon 12. So what the console shows me, not only the results of what I log out, but it also shows me what line this particular code was executed. So my app.js file colon 12, line 12 is where that code is being executed. That's pretty cool. So notice here, when I said console.log 4 plus 2, inside the console, it doesn't return 4 plus 2, right? I don't see that. What I see is the results of combining 4 into adding them together. And that returned to me the value 6. All right. So that's pretty cool. One thing it does. So we know we have addition. Okay. We also have subtraction. So I can say console.log for -2. And I like to put spaces in between to make it readable. You don't have to. You can have a, 4 minus 2 like that. I just, again, I like mine to be readable. Okay. So here's 4 minus 2. Come back and look at the console. There it is. There's number 2. And let me add this right here. Well, no. Yeah, I'll say, I'll write the string addition. You don't have to do this, but this has helped me keep track. So not that right there. Addition, subtraction. Okay. Also multiplication. So multiplication, we use the star. And that should return to me 8. Like so. And we'll talk about this in a little bit as well. See what's going on here. So we got addition, we got subtraction, we got multiplication, we got division. So console.log, say division for divided by 2. Use the /. Okay. Notice how everything ends with a semicolon. Cool. Make sure you're doing that. Division 2. And then we have exponents. So console.log, I'll say exponents. And I'm going to say, what's that, 4. With exponents, we use 2 stars. So that should give me 16. And then we also have what's called modulus. So let's look at modulus. And modulus, we use the percent symbol. So like in SQL, the percent symbol refers to a wildcard. In JavaScript, the percent symbol refers to modulus. Okay. And again, that returns the remainder after a number has been divided. That's my poor man's definition of it. So here we have 4 modulus 2. In other words, what I'm saying, if I divide 4 by 2, what is my remainder? That remainder is what is returned. So in this case right here, I'm expecting 0 because 4 divided by 2 is 2 with no remainder. And there you can see I do get 0. So you can do any kind of operation again, and we can group these operations together using PEMDAS. So I can say console.log, and I'll put in parentheses to say 4 plus 2 divided by, I don't know, 3 times 12 times, put in parentheses, 9 minus 15 modulus 6. I don't know. I don't know what this is going to return. Let's see. But I know that I do what's in parentheses first. So that's 6 divided by 3 times 12 is 36. And that times 9 minus 15 modulus 6. So I got to say 15 modulus 6. And that's what, 3? Because 15 divided by 6 is going to be 2 with a remainder of 3. So 9 minus 3, that's 6. So that's times 6. Okay. So I just worked this out. That should be 36. No, 1. I don't know what I was doing. At any rate, maybe I did something wrong in my calculation. But you can do, again, you can do operations like so. Maybe I do 9 minus 15 first and then modulus 6. I don't know. Anyways. So yeah. That's how this works, okay? And you can go as far as you want to, do all kinds of formulas and what have you with the number that type, okay? Next, string. And we kind of looked at string, console.log. My name is Satch. So you do that, type your name in there, and it show up on the console. So let's look here in the console real quick. What I see here, and this can be helpful, when I type a string here in my console, and yours may be different depending on your settings, but the text is white. If I write a number, or if I return a number, I log that out, it's purple. Let me do this kind of further this point. If I say console.log the string 1, and there you can see the string 1, it shows up white. Even though 1 is a number, what I logged out was a string of the number 1, in which case it returned a string. And so here you can see that it comes out white. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. Did it get bigger? I can't tell. There we go. Make it a little more visual. You can see a little better. Okay, so there we go. So notice again, the number 1 is purple. Your console colors may be different. I don't know. But here my number 1 is purple. The string 1 is white. Okay, so this is just kind of a little tool that's built in. Sometimes you may need to know what your data type is. Okay. Just quick, offhand, trying to see how how it's returning, and this is a good way to indicate like what the data type is. All right. Excuse me. So back here with the strings, and again, strings can be single quote or double quote. So I can say, I use a double quote. A string can be double quote. Console.log, or a string can be single quote. And you can see it works either which way. All right, cool. And I'm going to show you this other command right here that I'm going to use, and I use quite frequently when I'm teaching. So we see there's console.log. We have another one, and it's another command to the console, and it's console.clear. And when I say console.clear, open and close my parentheses like so. And when I do that, it's going to clear out everything that was above it. Okay, so now all I'm seeing is this information right here, because I ran a console.clear on this line 20. So everything above line 20 is not going to get console. All right, cool. Let's look at some other things with strings. Okay, sometimes you have apostrophes, right? Maybe you want to your string contains like a, what's it called, possessive noun or something like that. Console.log, and I can say that is Kelly's notebook. And you see I have an issue right here. Something broke. There's an error right here, and I get these little red squiggly lines. That indicates to me that there's an error. Okay. And if I come over here and look at the console, what does it say? It's reading out an error to me. It says syntax error, missing closing parentheses after argument list. Okay. Well, I'm not missing parentheses exactly, but it is letting me know, hey, look on that line. So even though sometimes these error messages may not be completely accurate, it's doing its very best to kind of show you what error we have. So I need to look over here. One, I can click right here where it says app.js28. I can click on that and it will show the error right there. So I can do that. What I can also do, again, if I come over here in Visual Studio Code, I can see where my area is. Now, the issue that we have here is, let's say, again, I'm going to make this a string. That is Kelly's notebook. But what happens here with the string is Visual Studio Code is going to look at that very first single quote, and then the next time it sees a single quote, that's going to end the string. So everything in between that is going to be a string. So if I'm typing something outside of it, it doesn't know that it's a string. And furthermore, when I add a quote here, well, this would be the beginning of another string, and it's looking to end that other one. It doesn't see it there. Okay. So what can we do? What we can do is we can add something called an escape. An escape is, we're going to put this cursor here, and I'm going to put a backslash in front of this parentheses right here. And so what that does is it escapes the text, if you will, saying, hey, you are not a single quote, you are an apostrophe. Okay. So this is not ending the string. The string is actually ending here. Now when I come and look at it, and there I can see that is Kelly. You can see my single quote, my apostrophe, that is Kelly's notebook. So that is an escape. And there are other escapes. Okay. We have this one right here. Let's say I'm going to do it right here in front of book. I'm going to do a backslash and an N, like so. And that creates a new line. So you can see right there, that is Kelly's note. And then I put a backslash N and puts book on a new line. I can also do this. I'm going to come over here, oh, right here, that, and I'm going to do a backslash and T. And that creates a tab or an indentation in my string. So you can see where I have a TH, and then I tabbed over before I hit AT. And then that is Kelly's notebook. So I'll leave that right there like that. So you see with these escapes, we can style, if you will, our strings. So, but what I would do in a case like the original one where I had that as Kelly's notebook, in a case like that, what I would simply do is start out with double quotes, and I say that is Kelly's notebook, and that will take care of the issue right there. So when it comes to single quotes and double quotes, it's basically a style thing, okay, or a matter of preference. Some people prefer to use double quotes. Perfectly fine. Some people choose to use single quotes. Perfectly fine. I just happen to be team single quote, okay, but that's just what I choose to use. But if I needed to go and use double quotes instead, then I know to just use that. So choose one or the other, be consistent with that, and then also know how you would need to manipulate it, so forth. Okay. Um, so you want to make sure that you understand that and move forward. Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything else with strings? right now. No, I think it's it for right now. Oh no, it's not it. As we mentioned, like in the previous lessons, a couple lessons ago, or was the last lesson? Um, if I want to combine strings, okay. Um, let's say I was about to type something real crazy. I'm not gonna do that. Um, I'm gonna behave myself for once today. Um, let's say happy birthday, and then I can use the concatenation symbol to you. Okay, so we talked about again concatenation, and that is the combination of two or more strings. And I purposely wrote the second one in double quotes just so you can see that it does not matter. And there you can see happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to, and then you. So we want to fix this. Well, like we did in the video, we can put a space right here. I can add a space here. Or get really weird. I can make space right there. And then plus sign. And that will create the space that we need inside of the string. So now it's happy birthday to you. It's important to know that white space does count. So in other words, if I add some more space here, it is going to display in my log. So white space inside of a string does matter. Let me put that, let me make a comment of that. White space inside of a string matters. And that's a good piece of information to know. Okay. So that's it with strings for right now. Let's look at Boolean. And with Boolean, again, I can say console.log true, console.log false. Boolean is a data type that returns either true or false. And you can see it shows up in purple here. Matter of fact, I'm going to take my clear and move it down. So let me show you a cool trick in Visual Studio Code. All right, so I want to clear out everything above this true or false. Okay, I want to clear out my console. Only thing I want to display is this true and false. All right. So how am I going to do that? Well, I can just come over here and type. I'm not going to type it right there. I'm going to type it above it. I can type console.clear again, right? I can do that, and that will take care of it. All right. I can do that. Nothing wrong with that at all. If you do that, perfectly fine. I'm not saying that, you need to change anything. That's how you could do it. Let me show you another way. I have this console.clear right here. What I can do in Visual Studio Code is I can move code up and down my editor. What do I mean by that? Well, what does that look like? Well, I'm going to take my cursor and I'm going to move it. I'm going to click on the very front of this line. So there's console.clear, And there I can see my cursor is flashing. And then what I'm going to do for Mac daddies and Mac mamas and Mac persons, we use the Option key. So I'm going to press and hold on to Option, and then I'm going to move my arrow cursor down like so. Or I can move it up. I can move that up or down that line just like so. And that will move that line of code. Let me put it back up there. If you have a PC, okay, the button that you would press is the Alt button. So look for the Alt button on your keyboard. I think it's like next to Control, okay, and you can press Alt up or down, and it will do the same thing. So again, if you're a Mac user, use the Option key and up or down, and if you are a PC, you use Alt up and down, and that's how you can move a line of code. Matter of fact, it doesn't have to be just one line. Like I can select multiple lines and move them up or down. All right, cool. Let's get back to the Boolean. So here we can console true or false, and you see it logs out true or false. Boolean is also, again, it's a data type, which means it can return something, meaning we can write some expressions, and we're going to play with this some more later on. But let's say I wanted to say console.log, just for an example, true and false. If I console.log true and false, and is my logical operator, what would that return? That's going to return false. Why is it going to return false? Because the AND operator says that both clauses need to evaluate to true in order for the expression to be true. So true and false, this evaluates to false, obviously, because that's what it is. So true and false is going to return false. How does that kind of look? Let me give an example. I could say I am 45 years old and I am 36 years old. That is a false statement because I cannot be both 45 and 36 at the same time. I have to be one or the other, right? So I can't say I am 45 and I am 36. That is going to evaluate to false. If I want this to evaluate to true, again, true and true, both statements or both expressions or clauses, both clauses evaluate to true. And so when we combine them, it returns true. That's the AND operator. The OR operator, let's change this back to false. Let's say true or, and that is two pipes, true or false. True or false, only one of the clauses has to evaluate to true for the statement to be true. So in other words, example I just gave, I am 45 or I am 36. that is a true statement. If one of those is true, I am 45 or I am 36, that would be a true statement if in fact I am 45 or 36 years old. And then we also have the not operator. Console.log. And if I say not true, and let me move this clear down right here. So if an expression is not true, then that means it's going to be false. Likewise, if it's not false, then it means it's going to evaluate to true. Show this other thing. It's pretty cool to me. So I'm going to console.log. I'm going to say true plus true. Console.log true plus true. And if anybody would like to take a shot if you haven't looked at it, what is the return? What do we get logged out? Anybody? I hear true. That's cool. Anybody else? True, maybe. Let's look and see. We get 2. Why do we get 2? We get 2 because, again, so we talked in the first video about the computer processing only zeros and ones. Okay. In the early stages of computing, 1800s, the binary coding came from what is it like? Is it sewing, something like that? There was a woman. Oh, I'm about to butcher her name just because I'm on this video. I think her last name was Manning. I forget. I had to look it up. But she's considered uh, one of the four parents of computer science, because the concept of binary coding came about through like stitching. So you want to know like which hole to stitch through, if you will. So it got either yes or no, on or off, true or false. Okay. And so with that, and then as things got mathematized and symbols were attached to this, false is represented by the number 0. True is represented by the number 1. Okay. So when I say console.log true plus true, then it's going to give me the number 2, because I'd be saying 1 plus 1. So let's do this. And I haven't done this before, but every time I teach, I always like to try to do different things. I'm going to say true plus true. And I'm going to say times 5. I don't know what that's going to do. Oh, it does give me 10. How cool is that? Because true plus true evaluates to 2 times 5, and that comes out as 10. It's kind of weird that it does that. I don't know if there's like any real use for something like that, but you can kind of see what's going on up under the hood and why it's working that way. And last thing again, well, the last two are null and undefined. I'm not going to spend any time on that because we're actually going to see how that works and stuff later on. But null and undefined, those are the two data types. I want to show something really weird with JavaScript. It was really weird to me. Like when I was learning JavaScript and I was just learning JavaScript, I had done some Python and a little bit of HTML. And yeah, I started learning JavaScript, trying to make sense of everything. And I came across this concept right here, and I was so angry. Like as a um, layman's mathematician, yeah, I don't consider myself like a serious mathematician, even though I taught math. Um, this really upset me. So we have this well let's before I talk about it, let's just do it. So I say console.log, and let's say I took the number 1 plus the number 1. What's that going to return? Anybody? Not a trick question. And I'm somebody's about to say 2. Yeah, correct. 2. Yeah, I can't see if you're putting anything in the chat right now. Yep, some folks are. Cool. There you go. I just see very true. That's funny. So let's say if I console.log the number 1, the string 1 plus the string 1, what would that return? It returns the string 11. Okay, so we look at it and we see we get the string 11. Okay, let me bring that clear down. I'm going somewhere with this. All right, so there we got the number 2, we got the string 11. That's what pops up right there. All right, here we go. If I say console.log the number 1 plus the string 1, what would I get? Get the string 11. So I took a number 1 and added it to a string 1, and it returned to me a string 11. When I first did this, I was so angry. And the reason why I was angry is because I always learned and I always taught that you cannot combine unlike terms. And if I have a number and I have a string, those are two completely different data types. Completely different data types. But you mean to tell me, JavaScript, that I can take a number 1 and add it to a string 1 and it will return something? I don't get some kind of error message. I wanted to flip the table. I really did. I was banging on the table. I was learning it. Like, this isn't right. You have completely rewritten the laws of the universe. No. I was just going off. I was really upset because it just didn't make sense to me. But what JavaScript is doing is something that's called type coercion. And type coercion, I think I spelled it right. I'm not sure. Type coercion is when JavaScript will take one data type and bake it into another data type like so. So what it's doing here is taking that number one, turning it into a string so that we can do an operation with it. This is something that you definitely need to know, because you may run into some kind of issue where you're getting inputs and you're expecting it to be a string, and or you're expecting it to be a number, and you got to make sure you convert it into a string, or something happens underneath where you don't get the result that you want. Okay, so it's good to know this. Also with type coercion, let's say console dot log. If I say the number 4 times the string 2, what do we get? Say 4. Do I get a string 42 or number 42? Because these are two different things we need to specify. So the string 42, wrong. You get the number 8. And we get the number 8 because when it comes to type coercion with multiplication, we are taking that string and turning it into a number and then multiply 4 times 2. Exactly, Kelly. So JavaScript is doing some weird things. And again, at first I was really upset at this. Like, this doesn't make sense. This goes against everything that I was schooled and everything that I taught. No, this isn't right. But what JavaScript is kind of doing here is accounting for human error. And that's one of the reasons why I like JavaScript. Not all languages do this. In Python, you would get an error if you try to do this, if I'm not mistaken, unless they changed it since I've written Python, 7 years ago. Um, Not 7 years, probably maybe 5 or 6. Other languages may behave differently. Maybe you'll get an error here. Um, JavaScript kind of accounts for humanness, if you will, which is one of the reasons why I like it. Because it will fix something like this, because it could say, exactly, that was me. um, I was like, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to. I was just angry, and I saw like, oh, okay, that's why they're doing it. All right, okay, cool. I mean, I can get with that. All right. So, with type coercion, also, like if I say console dot log, say the string 15 divided by the number 3, it returns the number 5. So any operation other than addition is going to convert the string to a number. All right. Now, what it cannot do, let's say if we do this, console.log 15 divided by 3. I will get this right here, nan, which means not a number. Okay. So I couldn't take the word 15 and divide it by 3. Okay. Also, something I know some people try to do, if they say console.log, let's say satch minus an S, you also get not a number, because neither one of these are numbers. So you couldn't do something like this, hoping to get atch. None of that works. Okay. So excuse me. I wanted to show you this before we move on, because in the next video we're going to learn about variables, okay, and what we can do with them, how they work, and stuff. All right, so this is a nice little starter right here. Play around with these, see how they work, and then in the next lesson we're going to get into variables and again what they can do and how we use them. All right, so I will see you on the other side of this.